I met Marek Siemek several times in the earlier international conferences, Fichte conferences, like in Jena and Schulpforta and Berlin, and also at the conference to the 80th birthday of Reinhard Laut. And from the beginning I was impressed by his kind of philosophizing. He was a very strong philosopher and a very straight philosopher. But in the pauses and after the conferences, he was like everybody neighbor, if he has been your neighbor since 20 years. So that was a difference I never met before. A human being that is a very strong philosopher and a quite normal man in all-day life. And I couldn't put that together until I have some discussions with him about the idea of philosophy. And he told me that his idea of philosophy is to combine a real good philosophy with a real good life, and that philosophy is not the same as life, but should make a real understanding and picture of a real good life. And he was a very good example for both, for good philosophy and I think also for a good life. He was so private in the conference when the conference is finished, or when the speeches are finished in the pauses, and so he suddenly turned to be hello, and of course he smoked his cigarettes after that and drank some wine, and he was sometimes philosophers are more stiff, like so all the whole conference they are very stiff, and after that also. But when you meet him in the conference, he's very straight philosophy, and after the conference he was quite a normal man, and that was amazing to see that it's kind of a good example how to live good and to make good philosophy. I think it's very easy to understand what Fichte wants with Marek Siemek's difference between the epistemic viewpoint and the epistemological viewpoint. In normal life, we all have an epistemic viewpoint. We look at a tree and say, this is a tree and this is an object for our thinking, and we think about the tree, but it is epistemic. So we are knowing the tree. But philosophy is more. It's starting from a quite new point of view that is called by him the epistemological point of view. That is not watching the tree and thinking the tree. That is you are watching the tree and thinking you are thinking the tree. And that's always what Fichte started his philosophy. Think the wall, and now you think the thinking of the wall. And everybody was astonished, what's that? And to put it in this concepts of epistemic and epistemological is quite a good start to understand transcendental philosophy. I always recommend my students to start with this difference between knowing the tree and knowing the knowing. And everybody knows exactly that is a difference, and before that he always thought about things and he never thought about thinking. And that's the difference what Marek Siemek made his whole monography to as attempt to understand the difference between normal thinking and philosophical thinking. He was not first to have this concept, but I think he was one of the best to understand the concept as a student, as a young student, starting to study transcendental philosophy. So we need good explanations and good starters and beginners to get in the transcendental philosophy. And that is the worth of the book. It's a real good advice to get in it at all, and not to stay outside. So it's a very good help, a very good Einführung, a very good starting point. Clarity and a good strategy. He was a strategic thinker. How can I advise my students to get into the transcendental standpoint of viewing? And not everybody who studies Kant and Fichte is aware of the of the change of the view. So if you are not aware of the change of the view, maybe you must misunderstand Kant and Fichte. And if you get good advices to get into this point of view, then only then you can begin to understand the real philosophy of Kant and Fichte. So that is called transcendental philosophy, because it transcends the normal standpoint of view to a special philosophical standpoint of view that is not outside of the world, but it's outside of the natural thinking.